when I lived in Russia, I never had this confusion of what a man is or what a woman is. Then I come to the United States, and it's the first time I see two men kissing each other. It's all focused on money, and greed. I lived in Redding, California. There's a drug addict in every corner of the city now. I moved here because the women, I have no appetite for them in the West.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to the channel, AfroLev, roaring truths to preserve your pretty voice. Today, we have a new guest. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Bernard Van Aken, and I'm a American born in Latvia, and I used to live in Russia, and now I moved back to Russia after living in the United States for 16 years.
Yes, and Bernard is actually the boyfriend of one of my previous guests.
Yes,
Natalia.
Yes,
We had a topic, it was about relationships, what Russian women want. So yes, and we will also have another video all together. That should be fascinating. Today we're going to talk about the lifestyle in America and the lifestyle in Russia. I want to start with a light question first. You have lived in both countries.
Yes.
What has shocked you when you moved to Russia? Wait, did you come from Russia first, or did you go to the States?
I was born in Latvia.
Okay.
So I lived in 3 countries, actually.
Okay.
I lived in Latvia for 7 years, but I lived in Moscow, Russia for 4 years.
Okay.
Between 2003 and 2007. And then I moved to the United States in 2009.
Okay.
I lived in California for 13 years and then Montana for 16. Not 16, for 3 years, sorry. And in the whole, it's 16 years of U.S.
Wow.
And then I just moved back to Moscow 6 months ago.
Wow. Okay. So you're back.
Yes.
Yeah. After some detours.
Yes, a lot.
How do you feel? How do you feel being back here? What are the differences? What's different?
I feel great. I mean, comparing Moscow 20 years ago to today, it's definitely well more advanced than it was 20 years ago. And I don't know, not much has changed in regards to architecture. I still remember the same places I went to as a kid. I still, of course, it's sad that the Hard Rock Cafe turned into the Book, because there used to be a Hard Rock Cafe here.
Where? Hard Rock Cafe?
Yeah, Arbat, an old Arbat.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, if you go inside the building, actually, you'll still see the logo in the center. I was just there recently.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was there as a kid, celebrating my 8th birthday, and also what used to be McDonald's. I celebrated my 7th birthday there. That's the second McDonald's of Russia. But now it's Vkusville. Not Vkusville.
Vkusная точка.
Yeah, Vkusная точка.
Tasty point? I don't even know how we can translate that.
Tasty and dot is how I translate in English. Yes. It makes sense for Russians, but not for an American like me who translates it from Russian to... But I don't know. I can't really necessarily call myself just American. I consider myself also Russian because of my heritage.
Tell us about your heritage.
Yeah. So I was born from an American father and a Russian mother.
Okay.
So my mother was born in Soviet Latvia. So that used to be part of the USSR. But her family moved from Leningrad after the Great Patriotic War. I had 2 great-grandfathers who fought in the front, as well as a great-grandmother who lived for the blockade of Leningrad.
Okay.
So to me, it's a big deal. Every time 9th of May rolls out, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It is a big deal, yeah, because I have heritage that is fought so that I can be alive today.
Yeah. That is really interesting. You are basically everywhere. Just all over the globe.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what is the difference between living in Russia and living in the States? Because you spent 16 years.
I have.
That's a long time.
It is.
How do you feel? What's the difference exactly?
I feel much better living here, to be honest.
You feel better. Okay.
Because of the Russian soul. Because people have more of a soul, towards the United States, it's more for just things. And I mean, there's people who have souls there. I'm not saying that all Americans are that way. But the whole society, the whole system is based on the American dream. What's the American dream? It's to have a house, have money, have this and that, but the soul is missing in that dream. And it's all focused on money, and greed. And for me, I didn't see that fulfilling. And also, the way it's culturally going, since I moved there in 2009, I how do I explain this? It's just culturally, it's been in a decline, and spiritually too, just because I think the focus has been more on the money and all the stuff that's not like, than God. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And but in Russia, it's the opposite. The soul's here. God, is relevant. Is relevant here. Like people know. I mean, Orthodox Christianity, for example, is a huge faith here.
It's very interesting because I went to an Orthodox church, and that was the first time that I was standing during a service. Because
me too.
I was just like, wait, what? Because like when I was when I attended church back home, it's like you can sit down, come as you are. You had people with really revealing clothing walking into the church.
If I may ask, what denomination?
So for me, it's really confusing because I've actually never been baptized, but my parents are Anglican.
Okay.
So
I've always been Protestant, but
yes,
I'm considering Orthodoxy.
So yeah, it's one of those things when I was never really. I would say I don't really have a set bracket. Like I'm not in any specific thing. I would classify myself as Christian, but I've never been baptized.
I was the same. Like everyone asked me, like, what denomination? I'm like, I really don't know. I just tell people I just follow Jesus. Like I'm following Jesus Christ. That's it. That's what all the denominations are. They all believe in the same God that I do. It's just that they have a different style of worshiping.
Yeah, it's like a different style.
Yeah, exactly.
But I appreciate that because you mentioned Orthodoxy. People are covered, not wearing any revealing clothing. Everybody's standing during the congregation. So I was really impressed. Like I was like, oh wow, I'm actually in church.
I personally loved it. And actually, we were just at a service this morning.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. That's the English-speaking one, or is that
the English-speaking one? Yeah. Okay. And I love what I love about the Orthodox Church is you got the icons, the murals. You have objects like signifying God, and I think people actually give reverence to God there. And it's like you don't have any distractions that distracts you away from thinking about other things except for God. And then the way I take standing anyway, it's just it is uncomfortable, but
of course
that way, from what I've been told, it just helps you focus more on the Lord instead of just getting too relaxed. Be like. You're sitting in a service like that, and it's like
there's a difference.
That's what the Protestant American church has been like for me, just sitting and
because I used to sit down. I just
not to bash them. It's just that's my personal.
No, of course, it's like obviously you have. By the way, a lot of people that watch this channel, there are different views that you might have. Feel free to comment. Be respectful.
Right.
I will hide you from the channel if you're rude. I've always told people this because. I kind of get my inspiration. I have a friend, Kevin. I don't know if you know Kevin.
Oh,
he's always live with always live with Eddie. Yeah.
I love Kevin. Yeah,
Kevin
great.
is incredible, and I love the way that Kevin handles things because he lets people speak. But then if you cross the line, it's like okay,
he's very knowledgeable. I have respect for him.
Very smart guy. Very smart guy. But the church is you're talking about the love of money, right? In the States.
Well, love of money, just love for it's more like thinking of oneself as opposed to thinking for others. It's like the selfish attitude, I would
understand,
say. And it's not just the United States. A lot of the West has turned that way, but the United States has always had that foundation.
I understand,
I mean, especially if you take God out of the picture, that's what makes it worse.
Everything just goes
But don't get me wrong. Like the United States, it used to be a great country. Like, my grandfather was born in the 1950s, my U.S. grandfather.
Yes.
And, he remembered in America at the time when, God was respected, traditional values were respected. Men were men, women were women, and that was a culture shock for me too, by the way. When I lived in Russia, I never had this confusion of what a man is or what a woman is. Then I come to the United States, and it's the first time I see two men kissing each other. And my mom had to explain to me what that is. She was also in shock. We were both in shock because she grew up in the USSR, and I grew up in the post, like after USSR, Latvia, and Russia. And traditional values. No one
definitely
no weirdos. Like for example, I lived in Redding, California. There's a drug addict in every corner of the city now. It wasn't like that in 2009, but it's
changed.
Culturally, it's been just. Especially especially liberal states. If it's a liberal state, like forget about it. That's actually why I moved to Montana, because my goal was I want to escape this liberal stuff and go to Montana. which Montana was better. The problem is for me, it was too small and it was too isolated. And as a young man, I'm 27,
Yes.
I want to thrive in energy. I'm not slow, and everyone was just like slow, however, to give Montana credit, though, it's a beautiful state, beautiful, gorgeous nature, like God's country. Like they call it the Big Sky country, which is true. Like there's big sky, like you have to go see it. Of course,
it's just blue and
big clouds, but also in the winter it does get cold, and it's similar weather to here, so about similar amount of sunshine.
I see.
But mountains, just gorgeous, kind of like probably Siberia, I would say.
So basically, you sound like somebody that is just like cut down the middle. You're like, you got the American side, you got the Russian soul.
Right.
When you left for Russia, or when you left to Russia, did you have people that gave you negative feedback?
Yes.
Or was it just like...
Yes, I have. Even some of my own family members don't agree with my decision.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I had a hard time with them. Now, I think now I have better connection, but it's not the same like it used to be. But I still love them. I have nothing against them. It's just, it's been hard for me in a sense. Like I try to explain to them where I'm coming from, and they don't get it. Like none of them were born in Latvia, or they didn't have the life I had where I was overseas.
Yes.
And that's from my father's side, by the way. My mother's side is on the other hand. My mom supports my decision. My stepdad at first didn't, but he also supported my decision after he saw, like the hardship I was going through with people.
Of course.
And he just thought, he was just telling me, I see this now as like, God's directing you to go. So, after that, he just started supporting me. So.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. I mean, it's always difficult when you, for me too, when I decided to move to Russia, I got so many different things that came my way. Like, oh, no, do you want to die? I'm like, no, I don't want to die. I'm just following because I came here for my wife, basically. I came here for her. It sounds corny, moving to a place for a woman, but it's not a woman, it's the woman. So
that was part of the reason why I moved here, because the women, I have no appetite for them in the West.
That's actually interesting. That actually was the next thing I was going to ask you. What is the difference? Because you have lived in the West.
There's a great difference. I mean, once you're born into a society that's Slavic, and where women have a high standard for taking care of themselves, both physically and spiritually, and they pride themselves in being women and don't want to be men, and then you go to a country that makes them think that it's okay to be a man, it's okay to be feminist, it's okay to not let men pay or give roses or whatnot, just not let them be gentlemen. And after dealing with that for 16 years, I mean, I've tried dating an American woman one time. It didn't work. And I just knew deep down inside my heart, I do not have anything in common with them. I have more in common with Russian women because I have similar values. And not only that, they carry themselves way better than in the West. I mean, I'm not saying that the West never has any perfect women. They do have. I mean, I've met some great American women, but they just didn't fit for me. And I just, for example, if I want to watch like a Russian movie, with a special someone, I'd rather watch it in Russian and not have to explain or translate. I want her to understand what I understand.
Which is understandable
because
too, yes.
That's the culture I grew up in. And it's also a plus when, she knows English, which my girl has that. So
she's fantastic. Yeah. She knows. She's behind the camera. She's ensuring that there's no mistake that occurs. Yes.
In that sense, it's a blessing. So
it is.
I help her learn, English, and then she helps me learn Russian. And of course, we'll get into more detail another time.
Of course, we'll have another video.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just the difference is huge comparing Russian women and American women. It's just the Russian woman just carries herself way better. I don't know how to describe because it's just, I find Russian women to be amazing as opposed to the U.S. women, just probably because this is probably biased, but that's the culture I grew up in originally. Yeah. And that's just what I'm used to. I have a Russian mom and, I saw wedding photos of my mom and dad together. She looks gorgeous. So it's like, once like the Russian women are gorgeous, it's like you don't want to turn back and go anywhere. That's for me anyway. But
It's understandable. It's like people have different preferences. This is this is in no way a slight or a jab to anybody. It's more of like his preference, which is
keep in mind, I'm not trying to like, you know, how do you say this on the American women? It's just that's just my perspective. I definitely believe that there's good women in the West. It's so hard to find them.
Yes, and also he has a Russian girlfriend, so he has to say this too.
Right, exactly.
If he was like, I prefer Russian women, he'd be like, so do you? You know, he's like, I like American women. She'd be like, oh, so that's how you feel, you know. So
I think the most, but the most important thing in the woman is her heart, obviously. Like,
of course,
not just looks, but her heart.
Yeah.
I love how Russian women have like a huge heart for, you know, for example, like being a mother or being a wife, being a girlfriend. Like, you know, once a Russian woman is committed to you, they're going to be committed to you for life. And I'm not seeing that in the West, but I mean, like I said, there's some women who do that in the West, but it's more common in Russia, and I love that the loyalty aspect is really important to me. So
I really understand that aspect too, because in my country, I guess people are becoming more Western, and I've seen a big shift. Because when I was a kid, there was a big difference between the people that we had in the past and now. Right. So a lot of people are trying to be more Western. They're trying to be more American. Even the accent, it's kind of a jab at myself. Because I don't sound like I'm from the place I'm from. But that's because of the education that my parents gave me. But in general, I feel like people have lost the traditional air to things. They more of just proceed to have this open culture of like, okay, I'm going to adopt something from there and adopt something from there, and there's no stable family unit anymore.
Right.
So yeah, I do agree being married to a Russian woman. I think it has been one of the most interesting experiences for me because I actually felt like I was the actual man in the relationship. It
Same
feels
here.
really nice. Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting too, being in a relationship with a Russian girl. Like,
it feels really nice because you're like you feel like you are doing what you're supposed to do.
And she lets me.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing.
She lets you do.
Yeah, and for anybody, it's important that your woman lets you be a man.
Yeah, because
that's so important because that's why I don't like the feminism because it encourages women to not and not let men be men.
Yes, and it's actually interesting too because like I was talking to one of my colleagues. He was talking about feminism in general. Like there are actually different forms of feminism. There is Western feminism and there's Eastern feminism. I was like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's true.
I was like, aren't all of the people like looped together? It's like, no. On the West, it's more of just like, I don't need a man. I don't need this. And then on the East, it's more of like, we also want to do some things which the men are doing. We want more access to these things, but we still want to maintain that. Yeah. So I was like, because I used to be anti-feminist. Like I was like, I don't like this idea, but there are branches of this.
Now they bring it up. I have had that happen. 4 months ago, I was getting a haircut and there was a female barber who was cutting my hair, and I was having like a logical conversation with her, and I was talking about the feminism. She's like, well, I'm a feminist too, and I was like, well, okay, and then she's like, but no, it's not the feminism that you think in the West. It's just I also like to, So when she explained that to me, I'm like, oh, okay, Then I see nothing wrong with that. It's just as long as it's not the toxic feminism. So you're right.
Yeah, it's like there are different branches. Like, and I was like, what? But yeah, generally when you say feminism, people are thinking about I don't know, putting men to telling men to go hang themselves, and then women can control everything.
Right.
And, so I like the family unit in Russia. It's pretty focused. It's very traditional. My father was also the same way.
Right.
He just had this idea of like, I'm taking care of my wife. I'm taking care of my kids. Your mom is struggling. I need to do something. And I kind of carry that. So I carry that with me. So it's almost like I fit in. It's like a glove, basically.
Yeah, that was my upbringing too.
Yeah. But getting to something lighter, because we basically came with the deep stuff first.
We did.
I
love deep stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a logical conversation.
Yes. As long as your audience loves a logical conversation.
I mean, very intelligent people.
I can
watching
get really
this as
deep.
Well. He can get deeper. We can go deeper.
The question is your audience ready for the deep?
I hope they're ready.
I hope so too.
I hope so too. But just to go on a lighter topic,
Okay.
So food.
Yes, that's
You were in the States for 16 years. I mean, you came into Russia. What is the difference? I mean, of course, people know the difference. You're gonna get your borscht, pelmeni, and all that, but
it's
the quality, how is it?
It's a huge difference.
Ah, okay.
In America, it feels like you're eating processed garbage.
Ooh.
Not that all of it's processed garbage.
Not all of it, yeah.
I'm saying it because for my body, like after eating food in Russia for like 5-6 months now, I've noticed like a shift in my body chemistry where I don't feel as sick anymore or as bad. Like I don't want to be graphic, obviously, but my point is, I
feel healthier.
Yeah, I feel healthier eating it, even if it's even what's considered junk food here. It's still healthier than the American stuff. They have so many chemicals they inject into food over there, like the FDA approves all that stuff. But anyway, it's as if they're trying to poison themselves.
I understand. Yeah, so it's like all these chemicals and stuff. What is that? That's the GMOs.
GMOs and growth hormones, all sorts of crazy stuff that they put in, and also there's a lot of food that has certain hormones that cause men to be more feminine after eating food. And
what do they put in there? It's like estrogen.
Probably, but I know that it just
looks like it's working.
Whatever it is, it's not good.
Yeah, it's definitely working. A lot of men are becoming more feminine.
I'm thankful that the president here in Russia has made
GMO free, right?
Law. Yeah, he signed into law anti-GMO legislation. I can't remember if it was an executive order or legislation, but I know that Russia bans GMOs.
Oh, really? Yes, I saw an article as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I love that. That means that Russia cares for the health of its people. But in general, like, I can go on health. For example, I have a nut allergy.
Yeah.
I drank something with nuts by accident, and I felt really bad, and I didn't want to call the ambulance, but my mom's friend, she works in the medical system, and I called her, and she's like, "You need to call an ambulance." I'm like, "No way, I don't want to do that." And as an American, what I know is like, okay, it's going to cost so much money to have an ambulance come, because typically it costs roughly $2,000 max just to pay for ambulance to come pick you up.
Which is wild.
Yeah, in the U.S. But now I did it here, and guess what? I had to pay $0.
That also shocked me.
0 rubles.
That was something really shocking for me because I had a problem. I had gastritis last year, and my wife was like, "Are you okay? Let's call the ambulance." I'm like, "Why? You want to spend that much money?"
I was the same way.
Like, it's free. I'm like, "No, it isn't." She's like, "Yes, it is." And they came in, checked my pulse and everything, and they're like, "Okay, bye." I'm like, "You don't want my,
and they also helped me cure the allergy and no charge." Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah,
you feel safer.
Exactly,
you feel safer because I feel like back home too. It's like you get the ambulance, and then they're like, "So, saved your life." And you're gonna pay,
and that's another big difference is the safety. I didn't know if you wanted to go on the safety factor.
Sure, we can go on the safety.
Yeah, but safety, like you go on the streets, some of the big cities in America. There's so many sketchy people out there that have a knife ready to stab you to steal. Let's say, for example, maybe you wear a nice watch, and then they just stab you and take it. Like I don't know. There's some sketchy places out there, even some of the smaller cities. But here, I live in the big city, Moscow. It's hard for me to believe that it's even possible to live in such a well-organized city that has hardly any crime.
Exactly.
With police that have AK-47s on them, patrolling and making sure the streets are safe. Not that every spot has AK-47s. But the center they do because it's the Kremlin. Like, you got to protect the Kremlin.
Safety, of course.
But
safety first.
I feel so much safer here in terms of police. Like, that's the thing, too. Police are actually doing their job here. In America, you have cities where liberal leadership have been shutting down police because people are saying that the police are dangerous, or or they say bleep the police. These kind of people. Just for your audience, I didn't want to say.
You're free to use profanity just as long as the message is across. It comes across correctly. Yeah.
But you get the point.
I get the point.
Right.
Yeah, because I come from a place during my childhood. I witnessed a lot of violence. I came, well, I think the last neighborhood that I was in, we had basically gangsters living next door.
Where was that?
So I lived in Maun, Botswana. Along the river, my parents purchased this beautiful home. That's like my parents' life's work.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful home along the river. It's actually funny because it's the stereotypical thing, because you have the river and you do have crocodiles and you have hippos over there, and people are like, you guys have hippos? Oh, yeah. So let's look over the wall, you can see them. So it's very stereotypical because we're right along the river, because the village, or now it's a town, basically is a hub for tourists. They come there and they have all these excursions. And basically, you go into the parks and stuff, but still, because you can't put a fence along the rivers, the hippos and the crocodiles pass through the town, through the rivers. So people are like, yeah, hippos, yes. Yeah, look down there, they're hippos. Which people always laugh. But truthfully, yes, there are hippos there.
It's Africa.
But getting to the point, our neighborhood was weird, and I always wondered why my parents got this, I don't know, huge wall and electric fans and all the security. And I was like, why do we have all the security? Because you could hear like gunshots in the background, or you hear, somebody next door got assaulted, or they're like, oh my God. And I was kind of like in a bubble, because my parents believed in like keeping us away from it, like safety. And I really appreciate it now, because I remember there were even scenarios, because my mom's a tough cookie. I remember we almost got robbed once. There were like some people at the corner of our yard, before we had a wall. They had their guns out and they were getting ready. My mom took the shotgun. She's like, okay. Pretty tough lady, Zimbabwean woman. She's like, okay.
They can own guns?
I have one too. So wow, it's really different, because I'm here. I'm like, oh no, I left my phone on the table. I can't. My wife's like, so? I'm like, no, but like, I got to take my phone. She's like, no, you don't.
I had to be them in the US. I had to be them in the United States. As much as they market themselves well in Hollywood, showing, oh, it's such a glamorous life. And so many foreigners make the mistake of believing Hollywood. Like, Hollywood is one of the biggest manipulators out there.
It is. And
it like casts America as this great country when it's turned into a pile of garbage. Not that the entire country is turned that way. The system itself, and I'm hoping with the new administration, because I'm seeing some of the things that the new president Trump is doing, and he's doing a lot of great things right now. So I'm hoping maybe that will help some stuff. But in the long term, it's still going to be a lot of issues, because a lot of the issues that have been happening in the U.S. take a long time to resolve. It's going to take generations to uncure from
reverse that.
The untraditional value thinking, untraditional stuff that has plagued the country for at least 40, 50 years. Yeah. From what my grandfather has told me when he saw it first coming with the LGBT and stuff.
Complete change.
Yeah.
Complete change. Yeah. And I have two more questions. Okay. And then, maybe three.
Why not?
Maybe three, yeah. Just trying to balance it out.
The more the better. Yeah.
The first one that I want to ask, you were there for 16 years. You obviously experienced the LGBTQ. Well, you didn't experience. You were not a part of it.
Oh, praise God! Yeah.
But obviously, you saw this happening.
I did see it.
And then you came to Russia. Have you seen the same thing?
No.
Or is it just like...
It's the opposite. And actually, I only saw one rainbow flag in Russia. And I was like, oh, a rainbow flag. And then the Russians like, we don't think of the rainbow like you guys in the West do. and that rainbow flag, I noticed it had 7 stripes instead of 6. So 7 different colors instead of 6. That's significant, because that means that's like the true legit rainbow. Like, in the scripture, it talks how it's the promise that God made, after the flood, that he's not going to flood the world again. So what LGBT did, the homosexual community did, is they took a symbol that symbolizes something good, that symbolizes a promise that God's not going to do again, and they perverted it to celebrate there. And also, the word gay in Old English means happy. And
this is
I don't think that these guys are that happy. They would like to say they're happy, but I've met so many gay people who, don't really seem that they're happy with their choice of life.
Yes. It's actually interesting we're discussing this, because my interview today, the same one, another interview that I had today, the first one, we were also talking about that, because we're talking about a completely different topic about ladyboys in Thailand. And I was like, oh, they're jolly and jovial. She's like, no, a lot of the people that choose to partake in this extra are pretty miserable.
And
because
I have had gay friends in high school. I have worked with gay people. For example, I worked at a jewelry store, and one of my managers, he was gay.
Yeah.
But what I liked about him is he had respect for me. He knew I was a Christian. He knew I was a believer. He never went to me and said that I'm such a blah, 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 bleep, bleep, for the fact that I'm a Christian. Yeah. And he actually, he gave me respect. And I have no problem with people who want to have this lifestyle, as long as they don't come to me and tell me that I'm supposed to agree with their life and force me to. I mean, like, for example, this guy I worked with, he was respectful of my values. I respected him, and I just, we treated each other as business partners, not as some debate talk on,
Pierce
sexual
Morgan
lifestyle or whatnot.
Or something.
But anyway, it just, but yeah, he taught me a lot of great lessons, like how to pay attention to details. Like, it's just, now I'm very detail oriented thanks to him. And, but do I agree with his choice of life? Of course I don't. But I'm not going to him and making him feel bad and say, you're going to the pit of hell because you believe in that. And that's a mistake a lot of people do. They go and just, I just rather like show from my actions, like what God is like and this and that, so I can inspire people, maybe like him to, quit that untraditional lifestyle and, maybe want to seek something that's even better. I don't know.
Of course.
I just don't want to go forcefully on someone and say that they're a bad person because they do that. But if they do that to me, that's obviously wrong, and that's what I can't take. And this is the problem with the LGBT community in the United States. They're literally forcing Christian men and women like me to believe it's okay. Not only that, they take their drag queens and kings to the libraries where children are and schools and teach them sexual subjects. They teach them how to do certain things. I'm not going to say what, obviously, but you get the idea. Just perverted things, and then they grow up messed up in the mind, not understanding if they're a man or a woman, and it's just that. And it is a big problem in the United States. Now, Trump has recently made a new executive order saying that there can be only men and women. So he's already starting to take a stance against it. And I've noticed also a lot of tech companies now are also going with that trend. The question is how long we're going to see this trend, because I personally think they're doing it for political reasons. They're not doing it because, President told them so. They just do it because they see that a lot of people actually don't like that. And I've also noticed that. I noticed that because they got so woke, people started to not purchase product from them anymore. Which is good. Well, that's positive. That's positive. That is positive because it's a big power. It's a big power play when people vote with their dollar. If they spend less of their dollar's money into a company, then it means that the company is doing something wrong. And if they realize, they're going too woke, and that's why people are stopping to pay this company, then they're going to do something about it to change it. So I've noticed more and more these tech companies are starting to change where they're not as woke anymore. I'm not saying that, they're doing it just for that. I still think that they had evil intentions to begin with, but because they were forced to, in a sense, with the society is
a trend.
Because I believe there's a lot of manipulation involved, but at the same time, in terms of long-termness, I believe that Russia is better in that sense, because here they have law and order where they make it clear that there's only men and women, that's non-negotiable. We're an Orthodox Christian country, but we accept other religions, such as, Islam, Christianity, other sects, and Judaism, like all these traditional religions with traditional values. For example, Russia has made a law labeling the homosexual community as a terrorist organization, as well as Satanism. That's a great step, because they're, basically it's going against
the traditional values,
the non-traditional stuff, and it's protecting the country from having their kids being brainwashed. And that's the thing, you're not going to see that in Russia. You're not going to see a drag stripper go into a classroom and teach
teaching kids how to
sexual stuff.
Oh my god!
But in America, you will. But not just in America; it's the whole West. In Germany, they're doing it. There's a lot of articles I've been reading in Germany, even worse than the United States.
And that's just wild to me. Yeah. I can't even. I mean, I see this in the news. I watch this, but I can't even contemplate seeing it in person. It's that's also part of the reason why I'm proud to say that I will have my children here, and they will have this very focused, traditional, basic in the sense that it doesn't differ completely from where I'm from and what I want them to have. You know, and I think this is a good place to bring up children.
It is a great place.
A very good place to bring up children.
I was here 20 years ago as a kid, even though it was harder times back then than it is today, because I grew up after the 90s happened here. It still was a great childhood, and I still felt safe. And, you know, traditional values were still alive. So it's a great place for kids.
Okay. Yes, I have one more question, because I think this is a very big topic, a polarizing topic. And you being an American and also having a Russian soul, I think you're the perfect person to ask.
Yeah.
With Trump coming into power, do you think that Russia and America are going to be friends? Is everything just going to change? Is everything going to be perfect and hunky-dory?
Not right away. The last meeting I saw where it was in Riyadh with Russia and America, my interpretation of that seems to be in the positive direction.
Yeah.
The fact that Trump and Putin have discussed to have diplomatic relations again, reopen embassies and stuff, that's a great step in the right direction.
Very good step.
I don't know if the United States or Russia could ever be close, because I feel that the United States, through 3 generations of Americans, have brainwashed them with Russophobia.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I moved here, because I got tired of the Russophobia of the United States. I always had to feel like I had to prove myself, even to Americans, even though I have U.S. citizenship.
Yes.
But they still would say, "Oh, you're a Russian spy." Like after I tell them I have Russian heritage, or they would have nasty comments about my, country. Not all of them. I mean, I've had both positive and negative, but more negative reactions.
Yes.
And not as much positive, unfortunately. And my mother feels the same way. She's there right now. But I don't know how long it's going to take for the United States to get out of this Russophobia. Because it's been taught since after World War II. And even from the oldest generation to the youngest, their impression of Russia is bad country, dictatorship, bad place.
Exactly.
And I say no to that, because I lived here. I know what it's like. It's not that way. They've been brainwashing them for years. And the problem with Americans is they're not open-minded. They only think that their country is the only country in the world.
Yeah.
And they go to other countries and tell them, this is how you should live. And then other countries like, wait a minute, who are you to tell us what to do? Like, we're our own sovereign country, just like you. And that's why, and Americans wonder, why is it that the whole world hates us? This is why, because we're not respecting how other countries live. And we're this imperialist mindset that just decides that we can just tell them what to do.
And they'll just follow suit.
And obviously now it's proven that it's not possible. And America is losing its grip on power, because the whole BRICS thing, for example, the whole purpose for BRICS is to unite nations and to focus on dealing business with each other. And this idea is becoming more successful, which is why people like Trump are afraid of its success, because what that means is the destruction of their dollar.
Exactly.
The destruction of their empire. Well, if the empire originally started for good intentions and was more like, friendlier towards countries, then I would not mind the dollar running, but I'd rather see an alternative that actually supports the sovereignty of countries, where we don't go into their country and say, hey, you got to live like this. But instead, we're friends and we just trade with one another, business-like. I have, for example, Russia has oil. China needs oil. Well, Russia sells oil to China, and China gets the oil. And then China has, let's say, maybe like steel or lithium. Yes. Russia needs lithium. Okay. China sells the lithium to Russia. Done deal. And they're just they're being friends by having trade, and And on top of that, instead of like conquering each other, they just support one another. You know, instead of like going in, hey, I'm going to take half of China's like, hey, I'm going to take half of Russia because you have all this oil we need.
This makes sense. Yeah,
that's terrible. Why don't we just like, instead of do that, just be friends and collaborate business like, instead of being like the United States that decides, oh, every country needs to be America, every culture. Like, no, there's a reason why God created multiple nations in different areas of the world. I would hate to see Russia not exist, or China, or other countries.
Yes.
I want to see the United States. I want to see Russia, China, you know, Europe, all these other countries, different unique cultures. I want them all to exist together. Not like have everything be America. You know, I don't know.
Understand that. Yeah, I'm in total agreement. And this has been a really fascinating conversation. I honestly feel like I need to have him back here again because.
And I don't mind. I'd be happy to.
There are so many things I haven't even touched on.
As long as they don't censor me, I'll be.
Nah, don't worry. Even if they do, we have a YouTube. It's fine. And Telegram, you'll still find the videos eventually. Right. So thank you so much for being here. Are there any channels or specific social media accounts you want people to follow you on, or?
No, I don't have any. I'm just I'm an IT specialist. So I'm a business analyst. I have programming experience. I don't have like a social network.
I see. I see.
I'm not like a vlogger, but
yeah. This is why you should watch the video. You can see him exclusively.
Yes.
So you're not going to find him on any other platforms.
No.
So yeah.
I mean, I'm still debating. I've thought about making my own YouTube channel, but I'm not ready yet. I have an idea in mind, but once I get settled, I think. Then
sure. When he's ready to do that, I will definitely share that. We will.
That's all I can say for now.
You guys will also help support that channel when it does come into fruition. So thank you so much for being here. And as always, we are roaring truths to preserve your pretty voice. Ciao.